Hi, this is Simon Upstall and welcome to another tutorial for Apple Motion, and this genuinely is an effect that shouldn't be missed. Okay, so shockingly awful dad joke there, but I think you'll find this technique really rather surprising and interesting. So let's take a look. Okay, so my project is 1920 1080, 24 frames a second, and 10 seconds long. Where have you heard that before? Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make some mist. So, obvious way of doing that is come over to generators and clouds. Now, I could just do this with a single layer of clouds, but I thought I'd make sort of some mist that had some depth. So one thing I really hate about the clouds generator is that the default start position, you can see these radiating lines coming into this center point here, and it's very ugly and it always draws my eye. So what I'm going to do is, because I want to have it drift across, I will come to the offset here and the X offset and add parameter behavior and ramp. And we'll come to the start here and we'll set a start value, I think, negative 0.5. And that's sent that horrible thing off to the edge there and we can't see it. And I'll have an end value of negative 0.6. So we've got this drifting across like that quite slowly. So we don't want this kind of boiling action happening on the clouds. So reduce that speed to 0.1 and that's going to be just a little bit more cloud-like like that. Okay, so then I want to open up the gradient. I want to take this white and make it mid-grey like that. And finally, I just want to come to its position and set that Z value to negative 500. Oh no, there's one more thing. I want to set the width and height to 3000. So we've got lots to play with. Okay, so he's set up and we can now duplicate it. Right-click, duplicate. First thing is we want to set that Z position to 0 and the blend mode to screen. And then we'll come back over to our behavior here and we'll set the start value to negative 0.6 and the end value to negative 0.8. So we're traveling a little bit faster with this one like so. And you can see we're already getting that sort of nice parallax between those two layers. I think the other thing we could do is just increase the scale of this. So let's go for 48 by 48. Just makes it look as though it's a little bit closer to us. And then let's duplicate it again. Right click, duplicate. While we're at it, set this scale to 64 by 64. Let's come over to behaviors here and let's start at negative 0.8 and end at negative 0.11. Oh, no, that's not right, is it? Not negative 0.1, negative 1.1, sorry. So that's a bit better. There you go. So we've got this nice sort of dense looking mist. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to add over the top of it a generator's gradient. I'm going to choose black and white for the style. I think I might have made this, but anyway, there's nothing to it. One end is white, the other end is black. That's all there is to it. So I'm going to set the start value to 200 and the end value to negative 720. These are the Y values there. And I'm also going to set the width and height to 3000 on this. And then I'm going to move it forward on Z to 600. So it needs to sit in front of our nearest clouds layer. And then I'm going to set its blend mode to multiply. And that's just fading off the bottom of the clouds like that. So I turn that on and off. You'll see the effect that has. It's just a nice fade off. So this is our mist. Let's rename that group. And let's make a new group at the top. Object new group into which we're going to put our text. Now this is the really interesting part. The text sits on top, not behind. So I'm going to type the word mist. I'm going to come over to format. I'm going to make it nice and large. I'm going to center align it. I'm going to bring down the baseline and I'm going to come over and center it up. Phew. Then I'm going to come to text, appearance, color, and also set this to mid-grey. And I'm just going to give it some depth by coming to filters, stylize and extrude. we want 1 for the distance, and for the back size we want 0.75. Okay, so how are we going to do this? We're going to take this group and we're going to right click and we're going to add image mask. We're going to take our mist group, we're going to drop it into there. We're going to switch to luminance and we're going to invert it. And obviously we need to turn back on our original group like that. So now we have got this effect of that text sitting in the middle of those clouds, despite the fact that it's actually sitting on top. So to get this all to work, we need some lighting. And I'm going to just add a light like this, switch to 3D. So I'm going to set this initial amount to 250. We'll come back to that. Come over to properties, X position of -960, 500 and 720. So we've got this light up in the corner there. I'm going to duplicate this light. I'm just going to move this one over, +960, and set its intensity down to 100. Oh, not 1,000, 100. You can see how nice it is when you actually overlight this mist. It sort of gives this really nice sort of foggy effect. Anyway, we're not going there for this. Let's come back to our original light and give it some animation, I think. Oh, I just also want to set its fall off to 5 like that. So let's set its initial intensity down to 0. Let's add parameter behavior and ramp. Let's start at, I think, 10. And let's end at something nice like 400. So now that's just going to increase in intensity like that. Okay, so why is it still not looking right? Well, it's because I need to come into this mist group and this gradient, and I need to turn off its lighting. Because if it's being lit, it's not doing its job of providing that matte for the background properly. So let's just turn off the lighting, and now you can see it's looking a whole lot better. So there's another thing that I want to add into this mist group. So let's add generators and lens flare. Let's set the size up to 3000, the intensity up to 4, the fall off to 10. Let's turn down the streak intensity and the ring radius. And let's set its position -1200 on X and I think 500 on Y. So it's sitting up there in the corner there. So what we can do now is we can come into this image mask and we can add to it color and levels. And if I open up the histogram, open up the RGB, and I grab this white value, and you look what happens. If I reduce that, mysteriously, it disappears and appears out of the mist like that. So this is the secret. So I'm just going to set that down to 0. I'm going to add parameter behavior ramp. I'm going to have a start value of 0.25 and an end value of 1. And that's going to create that appearing out of the mist effect like this. Quite nice. So the mist is not great. It just looks too much like the horrible clouds generator. So what we're going to do is to this group, we're going to add blur and Gaussian blur, and we'll set the amount up to 64. I think that just looks nicer. Oh, and what we can also do now is we can add a camera, and let's add a ramp behavior to the camera's position. Now let's choose a start value. I think I'm going to go with 200, and it's going to reveal something that I've forgotten to do, which is that this lens flare also needs to be 3000 by 3000, just so it's got plenty of coverage for the camera like that. There we go, that's better. And let's end at, say, -100. So now we'll be creeping in like that as the text appears out of the clouds. So it's a really quite an interesting effect, isn't it? Because it does actually look as though it's embedded in there, especially when it starts to emerge like this. And you can see just a little bit of it there. Actually, one other thing I think we can do is come to this gradient and we can animate its Y position. So I'm going to add a ramp behavior to that and set that end value to 200. And now you'll see that we're getting this sort of effect of the mist lifting away like that, which is also quite nice. And you could also, I think, probably add some vertical movement to the clouds, but I think I've shown you enough here. I think this is a really pretty nice effect. And if I turn off the mist layer, you can start to see what's happening. is that we're actually hiding the bits where the mist is over the top of the text. These are transparent, if you can see that. And those areas are seeing through to the mist, and somehow or other it just looks as though it's embedded in there. It looks as though some mist is behind and some is in front. So anyway, quite simple, but pretty interesting, I think. So thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.